Hey guys, coming at you with another quick tip here. It's very similar to my last video, has to do with splines, and in this case, I can't use a lathe modifier to I don't know, to change how many sides around this spline is. So what I would end up doing in this case, if like I said, if I didn't have enough forward thinking to keep my spline from the high poly, or maybe I collapsed it, whatever the reason may be, this would be a way that you could get your spline back and be able to adjust for low poly how many sides around the spline would be. So currently, let's see, we got 12 here. If I wanted to take this down to a 6 side, or what spawned this conversation actually was a talk I had with a student at Art Institute today. He had a 12-sided spline, and we were saying, if you wanted to take that down to 6 sides, and he was like, oh yeah, no problem, and he just dot ringed. He just did a dot ring on this. Whoops. Did dot ring and then removed every other loop, and I was like, that's great, but what if you decided that you wanted it a 5-side instead? And so, I showed him a method that I'd sort of come up with a while back, and that was to take this wire that we have here and delete the top half. What I did is I just split that spline there. I just split that into a separate element. I'm going to delete that. Let's go ahead and delete my end caps here. And what I could do, I'm going to loop, or do it both sides. Oops. I'm going to loop, and then I'm going to bridge, and that gives me a spot that I can, this is right down the middle of this spline, and that gives me a place that I can lay a connect down the middle of it like that. And so now I'll be able to extract my line like that, hit OK, and I got my new spline that I'll be able to enable that in the viewport, dial this back to where it would need to be, and then of course I can change that, make that 5 sides if I want to. That's one method. And now why this is also a good method is, sometimes I like to make, so this is my low poly, sometimes I like to make T-splines for, wires that are going to be a lot, or I guess they wouldn't be as seen as something like, this wire would be 5 sides, so this is a pretty important wire on your low poly. But, this is a shout out. Brett Briley taught me how to do T-splines, but this is kind of an extension off of this method I just used here, how I like to do T-splines. Let me remove that. Actually, no, I do need that line. I would do the same technique. I'd run that down, and what I'd actually do, we're going to dial this back up to 12 here, and I'm going to collapse that in, and we're going to do the same thing, except we're going to do these connections perpendicular to the original slice that I did. So split that, and I delete one of these sides. I'm going to go ahead and, I don't think I really need to delete my end caps. I just do that for looping purposes. Oh, I don't know. I'm an idiot. That's what it is. I'm an idiot. So I'm gonna I'm gonna loop that bridge, and I can select that line of polys there, and I can detach that. I'm gonna detach that as a clone, and then let's go back to our original one here. Detach that as a clone. And so you can see what happened. Oh, right on. I would need to remove that line. Do that again. If I delete these, you can see now I got a T-spline for my wires. You know, it can be viewed from 3D'd from all angles. It's kind of like some people don't know what T-splines are, and I always try to get them to remember back to playing like Cruising, I don't remember, Cruising USA, where they had those trees on the side of the road. If you played the game, you know what I'm talking about. But these trees were basically mapped onto a plane and then just duplicated and rotated 90 degrees, and so you could see the tree from all, side and front. But kind of the same idea here. It's my way to sort of repair splines and how I do T-splines, or sorry, T-planes. Of course, you could go in here and remove out. You can start collapsing these down, removing out some geo in here. Hope that helps. Thanks for watching.